welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to help you have the Zettelkasten of your dreams sitting on your work table beside you, ready to serve you in your knowledge development. Well, tonight I am working on a question. Kim was asking about it, and some others were asking as well. It's another revisit of the question of categories. And this time I kind of dove in and I made some cards to share with you. And there's actually 4 different ways that you can go about setting up categories in your Zettelkasten. And I will be delighted to go over them with you so that you can make the choice that's going to work right for you. The crazy thing is I have all 4 types going in Zeek here, and I'm a believer in experimentation, which is part of the reason why I have so many different things going. I do like one of them better than the others. I'll explain which, and I just would like you to be aware of them so that you can make the choice of what works best for you, because it's your Zettelkasten and you're the one that has to live with it and work with it. So you get the final say on anything in your Zettelkasten. And I do encourage you to experiment and give different things a try to see how it all comes out for you. Okay, what I'd like you to know about categories is that there's actually 4 different ways that categories can come about in your Zettelkasten. And I have all 4 of these going in my own personal Zettelkasten, and I'll share with you as we go along the one that I like the best. The first type is organic categories. Organic categories come about because each card that is newly added to your system gets to choose its own parent. Now it's going to pick a parent, and a conversation will begin between the new card and the parent card. Other cards will come along and join the conversation, and when you look at that collection of cards and you look at the conversation that's going on, you can say, oh, that conversation is on a certain topic. It fits a certain category. The category just arose, quite simply, in your Zettelkasten. It's my favorite way of handling categories, and in Zeek, I have 3 full drawers of Zeek are just organic categories. The second type of category building is what I'm calling guided categories. And I'm going to go through and show you exactly how you can use the books in your library to establish categories that will work for you, that are very informal, and yet can be quite practical for the types of material that you like to read. So this one is going to be easier to show you than it is going to be to tell you how to do it. So let's watch how guided categories can be created. I'm going to have to back up for a slightly wider view. Now, to build these categories, I'm starting out with little throwaway 3x5 cards, and I'm basically going to the books that are in my bookcase waiting to be read, and I'm going to be putting down the category that fits the book, or sometimes a subcategory if it seems appropriate. Now, this first one, birds, the story that I'm writing, the main character is a boy, a young boy, and he likes birds and he likes dinosaurs. So to help me with my research, I have a book on birds and I have a book on dinosaurs. So those could be 2 different categories. I could have this as category 1 and this is category 2. Let's see what other choices we have before we get too busy with it. I have another book on psychology that's specifically about the psychology of forming memories. I have another book, it's psychology also. It's positive psychology and how it relates to business goals. I have another one that's positive psychology. It's a big, grand overview. I've showed it many times. It's by Peterson and Seligman. Here's another positive psychology book on unlocking talent. So here you can clearly see that we have categories arising. Here's one on emotions. I've written a book called Writing with Emotions. This one is on the biological basis of emotions. This one is written for writers on how to describe what a person looks like when they're experiencing a certain emotion. It's called the Emotion Thesaurus. This one is on the underlying psychology of emotions. This is rather interesting. Right away we have Psychology is the main topic. Emotions, you could say, was the main topic. But now here's psychology of emotions. How are you going to arrange those? Are you going to say psychology is going to be a category and emotions are going to be a category? Or are you going to make emotions a subcategory of psychology? Or are you going to go with this emotions has a psychology and put all of psychology under emotions? Those are decisions that you'll have to make, but at least you'll be looking at what's in front of you. I also have a number of books on character traits. That's something I'm big on writing about. There's a book on speed reading that I started and didn't get very far with. And here's two interesting ones. This one is on presentations, and it talks a lot about the power of visual images. This one's a book on marketing, and it talks a lot about the power of visual images. They've each got the same subtopic. Well, what would I want to do? Maybe I would want to make visual images a category and make marketing and presentations a subcategory of that. I'm not so sure. What I'd like you to know by this is that it doesn't specifically answer your questions for you in the sense that it doesn't automatically give you your categories. You still have to make some decisions, but it makes it way easier. Let's see if we can figure this out. What would we do if this was all the books that were going to be added to a brand new Zettelkasten? First of all, I would pick out probably the ones that seem to be standalone subjects that don't seem to interrelate at all. And because these are, in my world, they're probably going to be less important, so I'm going to save those and give them numbers in just a bit. Then these two that have the same subheading, what I'm going to do with these is treat them as two different categories, and I will probably discover that these guys link to one another. But I'm going to treat them as separate subcategories, but I'll probably give them earlier numbers than any of these three. So I'm going to probably number them sort of like this. Now this leaves me with my main piles where I've got psychology, character traits, and emotions. Are they really separate topics, or how do they tie in? To me, the character traits are part of positive psychology, and to me, the emotions, based on my study, derive out of character traits. So what I'm going to do, if I'm going to use this method, I would say that psychology is going to be my big main header. I would probably make this psychology itself number 1, and under that I would have different subcategories. So what subcategories would I use? Well, these are all about positive psychology, and it seems to be the most common one. So I would probably make psychology 1 and positive psychology 1A. Then from there, I could be looking at a grand overview. I would probably just make this 1A, and then maybe make this 1A1 and 1A2 and 1A3. So let's give that a go. Now mind you, these are not actual cards. They're just setting how I'm going to set up my categories. Okay, so now I've got some categories set up. Now each of the character traits I would probably say belongs to under psychology, so I would make that 1A4, and I might just wait until the cards arrive before I break that down anymore. Okay, now for me, emotions, I study emotions as they arise out of the character traits, so I might name all of these just 1A4A and work out the details later. So there's all my ones, and then I could come over here and say marketing will be topic 2, presentations 3, speed reading 4, dinosaurs 5. Very simple. I should also point out there's a completely different way of doing these. I'm going to write them on the right side of the card just so that they look completely distinct. I could make, instead of 1A, I could make this 1100. 1A1 could be 1110. 1A2, 1120. 1130. 1140 and 1141. So you can do all numbers. So then these now look more like a category. And this one would be, and this group over here would be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and 6,000. Then they look more like category numbers. You get to choose. Okay, so now we've talked about organic and guided categories. Let's talk a little bit about declared categories. Okay, for declared categories, declared categories come up mainly in two different ways. One would be, for instance, if you're a student and you're studying a specific subject matter in class, you might declare an area to collect the cards that help you study for that particular class. While you're just studying for that class, you want to keep that area clean and clear of other stuff. You want it to just be about what you're learning in that class so that you don't get confused or mixed up. But later on, as your studies mature, if this is actually your primary field of interest and you draw on it at the upper division graduate level or just as you pursue that interest in life, that siloed area will have more and more information added into it to flesh it out. There's another main way that you end up with a declared category, and that would be, for instance, if you have a new foundational book. If you have a foundational book that you're studying, that's your first book into a new subject area, you can use that book as a guideline for how to set up your categories. You can use the structure of the book to give your structure to your category numbers. Again, you're building a silo, but only temporarily because this is a foundational book. And later on, as you read other books on the same topic, and you're reading them syntopically, they will add into this area and build it out. The final type of category is a set category, a preset list of categories. This is what most people think of when you say, do you use categories in your Zettelkasten? Do you have a list that you draw from for your categories? Now, this is the most common kind. Now, the way to handle this is that you consult the list when a card does not have a parent, because the correct way to deal with the Zettelkasten is that every new card gets to choose its parent, and the parent is what gives the conversations going between the child and the parent. And so your best bet is if a new card can find a parent that it should attach to and build its own categories. But if you have a new card that's in a whole new subject area and it doesn't have a parent, then you get out your category list and you match your new card into your category list. Well, the challenge there is just because you had a category list does not make that card any less an orphan. Until that card matches with another card or has another card match with it, it is still an orphan card. And orphan cards don't interact very well, and they're not terribly helpful. So that's why I tend to not particularly like set categories. Now, that said, I use them. I have 1 1/4 drawers in my Zettelkasten are all things that are set categories. And here's my numbers. I use 1,000 for my faith life, 2,000 for family, 3,000 for goals and dreams, 4,000 for my writing, 5,000 for my research, and all my general knowledge goes into 6,000. Where most systems might make art, literature, drama 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, I've got 6,100, 6,200, 6,300. So this might be more common, but I squeeze it all into 6,000. Now this category list is similar to the Wikipedia list that Scott Schepper offers and gives suggestions for, but this is more simple, more straightforward. If you'd like to have a copy of the list, it runs for several pages. You can go onto my website, KathleenSpracklin.com/categories, and you will automatically get a list of the breakdown of these categories for your use. So whatever you choose in the way of categories, after you've stated your category, then what you're going to probably want to do is use some punctuation to set it apart from the rest of the number, which you can use effortless numbering system for from there on. Now, if I use categories, my thing that I like to use next is a dot to separate the category off from the rest of the card number. And from there, I use the effortless numbering system just because it's so easy, and why not? So I hope this answers your questions about categories. They're totally up to you whether you use them and what kind and style you use them for. And just experiment in your system, make it your own. Don't be afraid to have more than one numbering system in your Zettelkasten. It really won't hurt anything. If you've got a quality index, you'll find your cards. So I hope this helps, and if you have other questions, just put them in the comments, and I'll try to address them another time. Thank you. Bye-bye.